So this Numpy and Pandas. So actually this Numpy and Pandas are called, so data science libraries are what? APIs. Okay, Numpy and Pandas are data science libraries or API. API means application programming interface. I mean, these are nothing but libraries. Numpy, Pandas are called libraries. Okay, using these libraries, the blur వస్తుంది. అది ఇక్కడ ఏందండి కలర్ చేంజ్ అయింది. Okay. So this Numpy and Pandas are data science libraries. Now these are belongs to data science, right? Okay, these are belongs to data science. Yeah. Kinder is not finished. Did I say finished? No. Kinder is not finished. I said already, right? Why are you asking all this here? Don't waste the time, right? We'll see at the end of the session what to enroll, what to do. Samuel, Kinder is not finished. Okay, you're not there yesterday. So Numpy and Pandas are data science libraries. So if you are planning to move towards data science, they may ask the things. I mean, you should know what is a Numpy and what is a Pandas. But this libraries doesn't comes with the Python software. Okay, so it means, so actually there are some libraries which you get with the Python software. Okay, the libraries which are provided by which comes with the Python software are called. Okay, there are some libraries which are developed by other people. So those are called as, okay, those are called as third-party libraries. So there is a standard libraries and there is what? Third-party libraries. So yeah, Numpy and Pandas are third-party libraries. Okay. So first we'll talk about what is Numpy. So actually Numpy stands for numerical Python. So the name itself, right? Numpy stands for numerical Python. And Numpy is a Python library used for working with arrays. Now Python support arrays, right? So if you want to work with arrays, you have to use which library? Numpy library. So Python is having list. List is not array. List is what? Collection. If you are talking about array is having dimensions. Array is having a shape. Okay, array is having certain functions. But list is not array. List is what? Here? Collection. It is only a collection. It is not a array. So Numpy is a Python library used for working with what? Arrays. So this array can be used as a vector. This array can be used as a vector. This array can be used as what? Matrix. So Numpy provide the functions to work with linear algebra and Fourier transformation, which is for image processing, and even it is used for what? Matrices. So Numpy comes with so many predefined functions where you can work with linear algebra and Fourier transformation for image processing and working with which one? Matrices. Numpy is having one more library. Within Numpy package, you find a matrix separate module. So where you can do some mathematical matrix related operations. Numpy is a Python library. Is partially written in Python and major part is written in which language? C language. Okay, so that is where we said in the beginning, like Python is written in which language? C language. But NumPy library partially written in Python and major part is written in what? C language. Now, what is the array is? So NumPy provide only one data structure. What is the data structure here? Array. Within NumPy, you have only one data structure. What is that? Array. And what is array is? Array is a collection of similar type data or elements. So array is a collection of similar type. Okay, but list is a collection of different types. But array is a collection of similar types. So sometimes they may ask you like, what is the difference between array and what is that list? Okay, so generally you'll say list. List is the collection of heterogeneous, means within list, you can store the data of any type. But array is a collection of homogeneous. Within array is a collection of homogeneous. Within array, you can store only which data? Similar type data. Within list, you can store different types of data. Within array, you can store what? Similar type data. But lister doesn't have access or dimensions. Lister doesn't have access and what is that? Dimensions. You will say no. 1-dimensional array, 2-dimensional array, 3-dimensional array, 4-dimensional array. So what dimension will define the depth of the array? Depth of the array is called as what? Dimension. Access is nothing but number of rows and columns. So array is having access or dimensions. Array is having access and what? Dimensions. In list, data will be stored as what? Objects. In list, data is stored as what? Objects. But when it comes to an array, data will not be stored as objects. Data is stored as which one? Scalar values. Scalar means individual values, like the way how you work with the C language. It is not stored as an object type, but it is stored as an individual value. But list is a dynamic in size. List is dynamic in size, means once list is created, you can increase the size or you can decrease the size. So that is what I mean by dynamic in size. But when it comes to array is what here fixed in size. Means once the array is created, you cannot increase the size or you cannot decrease the size. Once the array is created, you cannot increase the size or you cannot decrease it. That is what fixed in size. But list is a dynamic. There is no size actually. Okay, suppose if you want to increase the size, you have to increase it by creating new array. But you cannot do in the same array. Because of list stored data as objects, it occupies more space. But because of array stored data as a scalar values, it occupies what here? Less space. So because of array stored data as a scalar values, it occupies what here? Less space. So it is not efficient. Now list is not efficient to process larger sets of data because it occupies what here? It occupies what here? More space. But it occupies less space here. It is not efficient to process larger sets of data. So it is efficient to process larger sets of data because it occupies less space. So list hold only object types, but array hold scalar types as well as what? Object types. Now, if you see this differences here, now list and array. Now, if you see this is a list. I said list equal to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I said list equal to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay, I said list equal to 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50, right? If you take this is a list, right? If you take this is a list, now this list is having, so this list allocates memory for first addresses because within the list, data is stored as what? Objects. So whenever you create a list, it allocates memory for how many addresses? 5 addresses, because how many objects are there? 5 objects. Now this will hold the address of first object, this hold the address of second object, this hold the address of third object. So there is a memory reserved for address. Assume that each address size is 4 bytes. If we take the size of each address is 4 bytes, so there will be 20 bytes reserved for what here? Address. So there will be 20 bytes reserved for what here? Address. Because it reserves memory for how many objects here? 5 objects. Means this list to hold the address of what? Objects. So it reserves memory for how many addresses? 5 addresses. And each address size is 4 bytes, and it reserves memory of how many bytes? 20 bytes. Okay, assume that each object size is 10 bytes. Assume that each object size is how many bytes? 10 bytes, because object is having different properties. Okay, size of each object is assume that 10 bytes. Then total how many objects are there? 5 objects. Then what is the size of this total number of objects? 50 bytes. And 50 plus 20 is how many bytes? 70 bytes. For storing how many values? 5 values. So that occupies more space. But when it comes to the array, like suppose if you are working in C language, if you are writing integer a of 5, so integer means how many bytes it will take? 2 bytes. So here, when it comes to the array is a similar type. Similar type means you will define the type along with the size. Array is a similar type. When I'm saying it is a similar type, you define the type along with what here? Size. You define the type along with the size. You want each value size should be some 2 bytes or 4 bytes or 8 bytes. How many bytes you define the size? Now here the size is defined based on the value. Suppose in C, like C language, integer a of 5. This is C language. Integer a of 5 means in C language integer takes how many bytes? 2 bytes. Then it reserves memory for how many values here? 5 values. It reserves memory for how many values here? 5 values. And the size of each value is how many bytes here? 2 bytes. The size of each value is how many bytes here? 2 bytes. Then total how many bytes space is reserved? 10 bytes. So for storing this 5 values, it takes only how many bytes? 10 bytes. As compared to list, array will occupy less space or not? Yes. Compared to list, array occupies what here? Less space. So whenever you create the array by defining the data type. Whenever you create the array by defining what here? Data type. Data type is given. Like you want 1 byte, 2 bytes, or how many bytes you want for each value. Okay. Now this is major differences. Major difference between what is that list and one more is array. But if you want to work with Numpy, you have to say pip install what? Numpy. Okay, if you want to work in ideally, so you can just go to the command prompt and then pip. You can use a command called pip for installing any libraries. You can use what? Pip command. So pip and you can use install. So install, which one you have to install? Numpy. install. So yeah, this already there. So already install this Numpy. If you want to see the list of packages which are already installed, you can say pip list. And in this list, you can find what is that here? Numpy. But this will come automatically if you download and install which one? Anaconda. Okay, if you install Anaconda, right? Anaconda is a Python distribution which provides like what? Python software. If you install Anaconda, you'll get Python software, and you also get data science and ML libraries. Yes, Numpy, Pandas, Matplotlib, Scientific 5, TensorFlow, Scientific Learn. All this you'll get it. And even you'll get the IDs like Jupyter and what? Spider. So this Python distribution Anaconda, it is a data science toolkit. This Anaconda is what your data science toolkit, right? So once you install the Anaconda, now you'll get all the things. And you can download this Anaconda from this particular website. You can just use this website and you can download with software, Anaconda software. So from here you can download and install, right? So Anaconda distribution, now it is providing all these things. So Jupyter, Spider, these are called as editors. And Numpy, you'll get it. Scientific Pi, you'll get it. Dash, you'll get it. Number, you like panel data, Pandas, Matplotlib, PyTorch, TensorFlow. You get all data science related libraries. Data science and machine learning. Okay. All the things you'll get it along with what? Anaconda. Okay. And it is also provide one package management tool called which one? Conda. It is used for managing the packages like pip command. Anaconda provides which one? Conda. Right. So what you can do is once you install the Anaconda, with the Anaconda you'll get what is that here? Jupyter notebook. So most of the data science people, they'll work with what? Jupyter notebook. Most of the data science people work with what is that? Jupyter notebook. So it is a notebook, right? It is a notebook. Jupyter notebook is a notebook actually. Jupyter notebook is a notebook here. Okay, it is a notebook. Okay, so what is a notebook? So generally in notebook, what you can write? In notebook, you can write the code. Notebook, you can store what? Output. In notebook, you can write text. In notebook, you can write what? Equations. It is similar to your notebook. Okay. And once you create a notebook, that notebook you can distribute. You can distribute to what? Other people. Okay. So there is a Jupyter notebook. Now this comes with which software? Anaconda. This comes with which software? Anaconda. So what is Jupyter Notebook? Jupyter Notebook is a web application. Jupyter Notebook is a web application or what? Internet application. So the Jupyter Notebook is a web-based interactive computing platform. The notebook combines a live coding, equations, text, visualizations, everything you can write in one book. Okay, everything you write in one book. Okay. is a web-based interactive computing platform. It is a web-based. It is a web-based interactive computing platform. So it is open. Okay, how to open Jupyter Notebook? Again, I'm telling you. So search for Jupyter Notebook after installing Anaconda. After installing Anaconda, search for Jupyter Notebook after installing Anaconda, right? So it will open. This is called as home page. This is called as what here? Home page. Now what you can do is here you can create a new notebook. Okay, you can create a new notebook. Just click on new. Click on new, and you want to create a notebook using what? Python 3. So you can create a new notebook. Okay, you can create a new notebook and you can give the name of this notebook. Okay, so I just write Numpy. Okay, Numpy session. Okay, I just write Numpy session. This is what is a new notebook. You can save this. If you want to save this notebook, just click on save as, and where you want to save this notebook. I want to save in, what is that location? F drive. F:\\. I said F:\\. Yes. So we'll give some notebook name directly. What we'll say is Numpy. Okay, Numpy, what is that? Session. Okay, notebook with that name is exists. I'll say override. Now this notebook is what here? Saved. This notebook is what here? Saved. Okay. Now, if you see this notebook is a collection of, so in notebook, what do you find here? Cell. These are called as which one here? Cells. This is a cell. So there will be two types of cells. One is a code cell. One is a code cell and one more is marked on, which is called as text cell. Okay, one is a code cell and one more is what? Text cell. In code cell, what you can write? You can write the code. I can simply write the code and print hello. Okay. So actually Jupyter Notebook is working in which mode? Interactive mode only. This is working in which mode? Interactive mode. It is not a programming mode or it is not a scripting mode. It is working in which mode? Interactive mode. Okay. So once I click on run, now you can see there is a message called which one? Hello. So if you want to delete a cell is there. So here you have all the things. Okay. Here you have run cells and select below, run cells, insert below, run all, run allow, all above, run all below, like that. So you can find different types of cells. For example, if you want to write a text, now you can just write here markdown. So what you can write here, suppose if you know HTML, you can write by using HTML. So hash you can use, or you can put the headings. If you want to put the headings, you can write H1 like that, or you can write hash. Okay, now this is, okay, this is my first, this is my first application. So this is what here, not code cell. This is not a code cell. But if you want to insert a cell, you can just say insert cell below. But this is a code cell? No, it is not a code cell. This is not a code cell. This is which cell here? Text cell. Okay. But if you want to select the code cell, select what here? Code. Okay. Yes. Then next is how to work with the Numpy. In order to work with the Numpy, first thing what you have to do is import the library called which one? Numpy. I import the Numpy with one alias name called which one? NP. But in one cell, you can write one line of code or more than one line. If you want to write more than one line of code, you just press enter. If you want to write more than one line of code, just press what? Enter. If you press enter, it will insert one new line. Okay, now this is, okay, I just write here, this is statement 1. Okay, I can press enter and I can say, this is a statement 1, statement 2, like that. Print a statement 1, print a statement. Like this, you can write multiple statements. And if you want to execute this, you just click on run, or you can use a shortcut that is, okay, yes, you can use a shortcut. What is a shortcut? Is shift enter. You can just click on run, or you can use a shortcut called shift enter. Once you say shift enter, it will execute this cell and display the output of that particular cell. Okay, yes. Then creating Numpy array. How to create a Numpy array? So Numpy is used to create what here? Arrays. The array object is the array object in Numpy is called a ND array. What is the name of the class? ND array. So there is only one data structure provided by Numpy. And what is the data structure provided by Numpy? ND array. So what is the name of the data type? ND array is the name of the class. Name of the class or name of the data type. So ND array is a data type or class which represent what here? Array object. Array object. So ND array class is used to create array object in what? Python. Suppose you can create an array. You can create an array directly using which class? ND array class. But Python also provide various functions by using which you can create object of which class? ND array. It's nothing but Python provide various functions to create what? Array. Python will provide various functions to create what? Array. Like one thing is what here? There is a function called array. Array is function here. Array is a function here. Array is not a data type. But which one is a data type? ND array. ND means n-dimensional array. It allows you to create an array with any number. It allows you to create an array with any number of dimensions. It allows you to create an array with any number of dimensions. Any number of dimensions. It allows you to create an array with what? Any number of dimensions. So ND array class is used to create array object in Python. So Numpy provides various functions creating what? Array. So what is the function it provides? Array function. So this function creates ND array object. ND array object. But for creating array, what you require here? Data type. Now Numpy provides various data types. Numpy provide various data type. Now data type or D type is an attribute. D type is attribute of which one? Array. By using which you can define what? Data type. Which define the data type, the default type of array object. The default type of array is what here? Object. Default type of array is what here? Object. So D type is a attribute of which one? Array. So Numpy provides various data types. I said whenever you create an array, you create an array with what? Data types. That is where Numpy array occupies less space compared to which one? List. Now if you see this integer data types, like you find integer 8. So that will take how many bytes? 1 byte. Integer 16, that will take 2 bytes. Integer 32 takes 4 bytes. Integer 64 will take 8 bytes. So how many integers data types are there? 4. So you can reserve memory for 1 byte of value, 2 bytes of value, 4 bytes of value, as well as 8 bytes of value. There is another data type you have, and what is the data type is float. Now in float, you all again you have 3 data types. Now there is a float 16 that will take how many bytes? 2 bytes. And float 32 will take 4 bytes. And float 64 will take 8 bytes. Now you choose the data type based on the size of the value. How you choose a data type? Choosing data type is always based on the size of the value. Now you want to store the value which range from minus 128 to plus 127, then choose which data type? 1 byte, which is called as integer 8. Integer 8 means 2 to the power of 16. 2 to the power of 16 means how many values it will accept? 256 values, which range from minus 128 to plus 127. Like that, integer 16 is how many bytes here? 2 bytes. So that is nothing but 2 to the power of 16, which is 65,536 values, which range from minus 32,768 to plus 32,767. So always the size is taken based on the value. I mean, what is the size of the value you want to store inside array? Suppose if you want to store 1 and if you choose the data type as integer 64, unnecessarily you are wasting what? Space. Okay. So there is also a complex data types like complex 64 and complex 128. So complex 64 is how many bytes? 8 bytes. 8 bytes means here real is 4 bytes and imaginary is what? 4 bytes. Because complex number is having how many values? 2 values. One is a real value and one more is what? Imaginary value. The value of real takes how many bytes here? 4 bytes. And the value of imaginary takes how many bytes here? 4 bytes. Real is 4 bytes and imaginary is also 4 bytes. Real is a 4 bytes and imaginary is also 4 bytes. Okay. Now just try to understand this, how this has been done. So that is where you'll say, okay, that is what you're saying it as a, yes. So complex data types are there like complex 64 and complex what here? 128. 128 is how many bytes here? 16 bytes. Within that 8 bytes is for real and 8 bytes is for what here? Imaginary. So integer takes both signed as well as what? Unsigned. Integer takes both signed as well as what? Unsigned. But when it comes to the unsigned integer data type, you have unsigned integer 8, which takes 1 byte. Unsigned integer 16, which will take 2 bytes. Unsigned integer 32, which takes 4 bytes. Unsigned integer 64, which takes how many bytes? 8 bytes. So the data type also represent using a single character, like I is for integer, F is for float, and U is for unsigned integer, S is for what here? String. S is for string. Okay. Yes, these are NumPy array data types, but you have to understand where NumPy is used in, linear algebra, Fourier transformation. It means it is used in linear equations, Fourier transformation, as well as what? Matrices. Linear equations, which are very much helpful in doing certain calculations, which is very much useful in doing certain calculations. So if you want to move to data science, you must know one chapter in school. What is that chapter is? Linear algebra. You must know one chapter in mathematics called which one? Linear algebra. Okay. So there are certain calculations you can do it by using which one? Linear algebra. Like percentages, okay, age calculations, okay, like certain equations, certain that is based on a given business problem. You apply this linear algebra equation. You know, there is one standard equation, right? There's one standard equation, yes or no? There's one standard equation for linear equation, right? So based on that, you'll try to find, you'll try to give the inputs and find what result, right? Yes. But what you're learning is you're not learning like how to solve the linear equations and all the things, but you're learning how to work with the NumPy. But where it is used, how it is used, where it is used, where it is used means that again you learn when you move toward data science. Okay, because if I'm telling again linear equations, no, it is not Python, it is becomes again data science. Okay, now, so there are so many applications, but that you learn when you move toward data science. So NumPy is having a separate package. Within NumPy itself, there is another module or package called linear algebra, which contain all equations or functions related with what? Linear algebra. Okay, now how to create an array? Now this is a function called array. Array function, array, it followed by which one? Object. It followed by which one? Data type. It followed by which one? Order. It followed by which one? N dimension. So object is an iterable. Means always when you are creating an array using array function, you always create an array by using some data. Okay, this is a function, but this function written which object? ND array object. So always you create a array by using array function, and it followed by which one? Object. It followed by which one? Data type. It followed by order, and it followed by how many dimensions? You are creating array with how many dimensions? So here you create an array by using object. Object must be which type? Iterable, which contain more than one value. So data type, what is the data type of this particular array? Integer 8 or integer 16 or integer 32 or float 16 or float 64 or what exactly? Order is there. Order can be C, which is called as row major order, or it can be F, which is called as column major order. It can be row major order, or it can be what? Column major order. So what is the meaning of this row major and column major? Okay, the way how it is organized, the way how it is organized in memory. For example, if we take one matrix, okay, there is one matrix. So with some 3 rows and 3 columns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what is that here? 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this order, okay, this order you call it as row major order. Row major order means the data is organized in the form of a row, in the form of row, right? It is organized like this. 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, then what is that? 7, 8, 9. So Fortran, if you are working with Fortran, it uses column major order. It means 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And then what? 4, 5, 6. If it is a 2 by 2 matrix, 3 by 3 matrix, now this is 7, 8, 9. So it means this is called as a first row, and this is a second row, and this is a third row. Now this order, you call it as which order here? Column major order. This is F. F stands for which language? Fortran language. Fortran language, it try to store the data in which order? Column major order. Column major order. But C language uses which order? Row major order. So it is organized in rows. It is organized in what? Row. Each row is row. But here row is in which order? Column. Right? So that is row major and column major. Okay. And n dimension specifies the minimum number of dimensions of an output array. Is it one dimension? So what is dimension? Define depth of the array. Array within the array. If I'm writing array of arrays, array of array is called 2 dimension. Array of array of array, 3 dimension. Array of array of array of array, that is 4 dimensions. Number of dimensions will define the depth of the array. Okay, now this number of dimensions will define the depth of the array. Now this is called as 1 dimension. Okay. This is called as which one? 1 dimensional array. And this is called as which array? 2 dimensional array. This is called as a 2 dimensional array. 1 dimensional array. And this is called as a 2 dimensional array. And there is another array which is called as 3 dimensional array. So if you are representing this, it can be like this. So this is called as, okay, 2 dimensional array, which is having one array holding another array. One array holding another array. Another array. One array holding another array. Now this is 1 dimensional and this is 2 dimensional. And this is what here? 3 dimensional. So an array hold another array and this array hold what? Another array. It is just like a cube. Cube is having number of dimensions or not? Yes. Number of dimensions. The cube is having number of dimensions. Number of dimensions. The cube is having number of dimensions. So this is which one? 4 dimensions. Okay. This is which one here? 4 dimensions. Okay. So I'm just telling you this, but what dimension will define depth of the array? What dimension will define depth of the array? Then how to create an array? How to create an array? You are trying to use array function, right? So there is a function called array. Now you can work with Jupyter notebook. You can work with Jupyter notebook, or you can also work with another notebook which is provided by Google. There is another notebook which is provided by whom? Google. So most of the data science people nowadays using that only. What is that is? Google Colab. There's one more notebook you have, and what is that is? Google Colab. Collaboratory. Okay, now for this you don't require to install anything because Collaboratory is working in cloud environment. Collab is what? Working in cloud environment. So Collaboratory or Colab is short, is a product from Google Research. Colab allows anybody to write and execute arbitrary Python code through browser and is specially well suited to machine learning, data analysis, as well as what? Education. Okay, and it is especially well suited for machine learning people, data analysis, as well as what? Google Colab is a free. Uh, Google Colab is an excellent tool for deep learning task or machine learning. It is hosted as a Jupyter notebook that require no setup and has an excellent free version. Okay, which give free access to Google computing resources such as GPUs as well as what TPUs. It means you can work with huge or large sets of data. It means suppose you have a CPU, right? CPU, GPU, TPU. Okay, these are graphical. Okay, where it try to access large amount of data. It can able to process large amount of data. For example, if you want to have a gaming system, you'll try to use what GPUs. Okay, which is having high quality of things, and it is having excellent processing speed and everything. Okay, it is very costly. It is very costly. Because of that, this Google Colab people, the Google Colab people, they provided all this for free access. Google Colab people, they have given free access to this GPUs as well as what TPUs. Now you don't require any configuration at your side, because when a data science or AI people require to manipulate huge set of data, this processor is not enough. This space is not enough. Like suppose you required 1 TB or 2 TB or 3 TB of RAM, that cannot provided by your system. Okay, it is costly. Then it has been provided by whom? Collab, right? So that's the reason most of the people, those who are working with the data science and machine learning, they'll try to use which one? Collab. So how to work with the Collab? Nothing, you have to do it. Okay, to work with a Collab, you required only one thing, that is Gmail account, right? If you have a Gmail account, what you do is you just click on sign in. You just click on which one? Sign in, and you can sign in with your Gmail account. And where these notebooks get stored in, these notebooks get stored in your drive. Where these notebooks get stored in your drive. It is saved in your drive. Okay. Now you can see all these are. So if you want to create a new notebook, just click on which one? New notebook. Just click on new notebook, and where this notebook get created in your drive. Where this notebook get created in your drive. Okay. Okay, right? Yes. Now here it is very easy. Now you can find your code cell, and one more is what? Text cell. If you want to type the text, it will give all bold, italic. You can also insert images. You can insert link, everything you can do it. If you want to write a code, just select which one? Code cell. Okay, now you can delete the cells. Okay, delete the cell here. Okay, code cell. And here you can write printer. What is it? Hello, Python. Now should connect to the server and then should get the result. Now you can see how much RAM they are providing it. Like the RAM is 12 point something is there, 12.69 GB of RAM. 12 GB of RAM, and the disk space is they are providing 107 GB. Okay, now that is a disk space what they are providing it. So this is a Google Compute engine which is there at what backend. So where you'll be sending this code to the backend, and that will execute this code and get it back to which one? Collaborate. Okay. Now if you want to, yes, if you want to execute it, now shortcut is Control Enter as a shortcut for executing it. And if you want to insert the code cell, you can just use insert code cell. Now I can say import Numpy as what is that? NP. Import Numpy as what? NP. And I want to create an array. I'll just write NP dot what is that? Array. What is the name of the function? Array. But array, if I just write array, is it created or not created? Not created, because just now I said whenever you want to create an array using array function, whenever you want to create an array using array function, what it required? Input. What is the input? Data. You cannot create an array using array function without giving what? Data. So array missing required argument called which one? Object. So if you want to create an array, now you need to define if you want to create an array, you have to define what? The source. If you want to create an array, okay, you have to define the source. So what is the source? I can create an array by using what? Any iterable. I can create an array using what? List. I can create an array using a list. So np dot array. Now this is which array? Single dimensional array. If you want to create an array with a 2-dimensional, I use what here? Nested list. Now 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I try to create how many arrays here? 2 arrays. So one is A and one more is what here? B. So once you run this, now this is one array and this is what? Another array. You can get A dot, okay, A dot n dimension. Okay, you can get B dot n dimension. I want to know what is the dimensions of this both array. What is the dimension of A array? 1 dimension. What is the dimension of B array? 2 dimension. Okay, 2 dimension. And you can also find how many rows and columns are there by saying, for example, print B dot here shape. So B dot, I said shape. What is the shape of this B array here? Okay, it is having 3 rows and 3 columns. It is having 3 rows and 3 columns. And A dot, I'm saying here shape. All these are properties or attribute of a array. It is having how many values? 4 values, because it is which array? Single dimension array. Is having how many values? 4 values. It is having 3 rows and 3 columns. So whenever you create an array, yes, already I said this. So whenever you create an array, you create an array with what? A data type, right? You try to create a data type. Suppose if I'm trying to, okay, if I want to know what is a data type, I can find out the data type by saying A dot data type. If I want to find the B data type, I'm saying B dot data type. When I say A dot data type is taken how many integer? 64. So 64 means now each value take how many bytes? 8 bytes. Each value takes how many bytes here? 8 bytes. Is it more or not? Yes. Because of that, always it is recommended. Because of that, it is always recommended to create an array with what size? It is always recommended to create an array with the size. So NP dot array. So I'm creating an array with how many values? 5 values. And I'm trying to use data type equal to NP dot integer 8. So what is a data type? Now I can just print A, which is array, and I can print A is an array, and I can print A dot data type. What is the data type of this array? A dot n dimension, data type and n dimension. Now you can see 1, 2, 3, integer 8. Integer 8 means how many bytes? 1 byte. 8 means what bits? 8 means what here? Bits. Okay. So here it is 64 bits. Means 8 bytes. Each value is how many bytes? 8 bytes. Integer 8 means 1 byte. And this is which array? One dimensional array. And having how many values? What is the shape of this array? Number of values are how many? 5. Because one dimensional array. Okay. One dimensional array. Okay. Yes. Now you can create an array. You can create, for example, I said array is a similar type or different type. Actually, array is a similar type or different type. Similar type. You cannot store different types of values in what? Array. So what will happen if I'm trying to store different types of values in what? Array? Then it converts into broader type. Suppose I'm saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I just write here 1.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I just write 1.5. So when I say print A, so I said print A and print A dot data type. Print A and print A dot data type. So what is the data type is taken? Float. Means is it all these values are converted to which type? Float. So 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, 5.0. All these values are converted to which type? Float type. Okay, because in integer and float, which one is a broader type? Float is a broader type. In the same way, for example, B equal to NP dot array. I try to create an array with some 10, 20, 30, 40, and I try to take the string also. I try to take the string also. Now I'm trying to say B, and I'll try to say B dot data type. So what is the data type here? String. What is the data type here? String. Unicode. What is the size is taken? Some 20 character, 20 or something like that. Okay, now 10, 20, 30, 40. Is it converted all these values into which type here? String. Because you cannot convert string to what? Integer. But integer can be converted to what? String. So, but array cannot, it means array can hold a similar type? No. Is it array can hold different types? No. Array can hold only which type? Similar type. Only one type of data. Now, if I'm saying array of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, but 60 is a string or not? Yes. So will it convert all these values into which type? String type. It will convert all these values into which type here? String type. If I'm writing 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, sorry. Because here I've defined the data type, it will convert this 16 to which type? Integer type. If you don't give the data type, then it takes which type here? String. Because we cannot convert this Python into integer, but integer can be converted to what? String. But suppose when the conversion is, for example, here this is a data, but this data is which one? String. Then what will happen? Will it convert all these values into which type? String only. Because are you define any data type? No. Suppose I define the data type saying np dot integer. Integer, what is that? 8. So, but this is a string, right? And within this string, which value is there? Integer is there. Now, is it this integer? Integer represented as a string can be converted to integer or not? Yes. So what will happen? It will convert all the values into which type? Integer type. But within this, if I'm writing AB, but array type is what? AB, array type is what? Integer. But is it AB converted into integer? No. then immediately it gives which error? Type error. Okay, yes, value error. Invalid literal for integer with the base what here? 10. So the conversion can be either implicit, the conversion can be either implicit, the conversion can be either what? Explicit. Explicit means you need to define what? Data type. Explicit means you need to define the data type. Implicit means the conversion is done by the Python, but based on the broader type. Okay. Suppose if I'm writing C equal to NP dot array, C equal to NP dot array. Now this is an array which I'm creating using which values? Integer values. But I want this integers to be converted into what? Float. Then I'll say data type equal to NP dot. I'm just writing it as what? Float 16. Float 16. Now what will happen? All these values get converted into which type? All these values get converted into which type? Float type. This is implicit conversion or explicit. Explicit, you are converting it with the help of what? Data types. But your array having the values of which type? Integer, but I convert into float. Your array is having integers as well as stringer. This integer represented as what? Stringer. I want to convert this into which type here? Integer. So this is explicit conversion. So the conversion can be either implicit, the conversion can be either what? Explicit. Okay, explicit means you need to define what? Data type. Data type must be given. So there is some questions here like what is dimension? A dimension define the depth of the array. How many nested? Depth of the array, what is that? Nested. Nested means like how much? What is the depth? That is defined by which one? Yes. It will define the depth of the array. Depth of the array is defined by, okay, depth of the array is defined by okay. So what is the dimension is? The dimension define the depth of the array or nested. How many nested you want? Now what is the shape of the array? Shape of the array define the number of rows and columns. How many rows and columns? That defined by which one? Shape. What is the size of the array? That will define number of elements. How many elements are exist within the array? What is D type here? Type of elements hold by which one? Array. So that can be called as array data type or not? Yes. That is called as array data type. So that is called as array data type. Now you are creating an array. You are creating an array of, okay, you are creating an array with number of rows and columns. If you want to create a two-dimensional array, then you try to create an array using which list? Nested list. If you want to create a two-dimensional array, you try to create an array using what here? Nested list. You try to create an array using nested list. Now 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So here I define the data type np dot some integer 8. Now you can get all the properties. I print first a, then I print a dot. What is it? N dimension. I can print a dot. What is that? Shape. I can print a dot size. I can print a dot data type. I can read individual elements by using row and column index. I can read it by using row and column index. So A of 0, 0, 0, 1, okay, 0, 2. I can write A of, okay, 1, 0. So because array means elements are identified with what? Index. So this is 1, 1 and A of 1, 2. So print A of, okay, 2, 0, A of 2, 0, okay, and A of 2, 1 and A of 2, 2. So we read individual values by using row index and column index. So what is the array? Now this is two-dimensional array with 3 rows and 3 columns. And how many elements are there in array? 9 elements. And what is the data type of this array? Integer 8. And we read all the elements individually or not? Yes. So we can read all the elements individually. Now this is how you are trying to read. Okay, this is how you are trying to read the elements like through and 3 by 3 by 3 and integer 64, 9 and each item size also there that will define the size of each value. That will define the size of each value. If you want to know the size of each value, you can try to use a dot. What is that here? Item size. What is the size of each value? 1 byte. Now each value in array takes how many bytes here? 1 byte. So that will define the size of each element. Okay, size of, how many bytes occupied by each element. So that you can define it using what? Item size. But this is creating array using which function? Array function. But Python provides different functions. Okay, Python provide different ways of creating what here? Array. Python provide various functions, not only array function. There are various functions which are used for creating what? Array. Like there is a function called which one? Empty. But I said no, array is a mutable or immutable? Immutable. Array is a immutable. If I'm trying to modify a of 0, 0 equal to some 9. I said a of 0, 0 equal to 9. And after that, I try to print what? A. After that, I try to print A. But is it modified? Huh? Is it modified or not modified? Modified or not modified? Modified. But is it ID is the same or different? Which one is immutable? The size is immutable? Is it data is immutable? Is it size is immutable or it is fixed in size? But is it values are fixed? Or? No. You can replace the values. Okay. Now there is a function called which one? Empty. Okay, there is a function called which one? Empty. Now you want to create one empty array where you want to fill the data later. In application development, you want to create one empty array. Which class? You want to create one empty array where you want to fill the data later. You want to create empty array, but you want to fill the data what? Later. You are trying to use which function here? Empty function. So this function returns what here? Empty array. This function returns a empty array. Empty, it followed by shape and data type. So empty, it followed by the shape and what is that? Data type. So this will create an empty array. Empty array means, will it be empty? Empty array means, will it be empty? Empty array means you are not creating an array with any values. You are not defining any values. You are not defining any values. Okay, you are not defining any values. But one thing is required. Which one is required here? Shape. Now, shape is a required argument. And you always define the shape as a tuple. I'm trying to define with how many values? 5 values. But the array is what here? Empty. But what is the shape? What is the shape I've given here? 5. What is the shape I've given here? 5. Means 5 values. This is which array? Single dimension array. But are you defined any values here? No. Then it takes which values? Unknown values. Like in C language, right? You create array. When you create the array and when you start reading values, it gets which values? Unknown values. Those are called as unknown values. Those are called as what? Garbage values. Those are called unknown values or garbage values. Now, see 0 0.0.25, 0.5 like this. But these values are known or unknown? Unknown. Okay. Yes. Now I try to create a B equal to NP dot. I said empty. Right. Now shape is required. 3 rows and 3 columns. Now this is a 2-dimensional array. This is what here? 2-dimensional array. But of which type it is taken? Float. But some values are there because array will be created with some values. Which values it is? Unknown values. It's created with some values, but these values are what? Unknown values. Can I replace these values? A of 0, okay, A of 1 equal to 2, and then I try to print an array called which one? A. So once I print A, now this value is 1 and 2. Okay, first value is 1 and second value is a 2. So what is the default type of this array is float. Okay, what are the default types of this array? Float. If you want to create with integer, I just give the shape of this array is, okay, 5 values because it is single dimension. Okay, comma, I just define the data type equal to np dot integer 8. So this will create an array with how many values? 5 values, but what is the data type it will take? Integer. What is the data type is taken? Integer with some values. But these values are not known values. These values are what here? Unknown values. But array required values. Array required what here? Values. But empty doesn't require values. Means you are creating one empty array. But empty function create an array with some unknown values. But I don't want to create an array with some unknown values. But I want to create an array with empty. But I want to fill with zeros. I want to fill with what? Zeros. Then I'll go for this is this is which array now? Cells of 5, 5, 5. This is which array? How many dimensions? How many dimensions? 2 dimensions or 3 dimensions or what? It is how many dimensions? 3 dimensions. Huh? How many dimensional array? 3 dimensional array. How many dimensions it is having? 3 dimensions. Is a three-dimensional array. Now you are saying sales of 5, 5, and 5. Okay, assume that two regions, two salespersons, and each salesperson, two sales. Okay, two sales. Like this, it is represent which array? Three-dimensional array. Now 0, 0, 0 means how many regions? Two regions, right? First region, first salesperson, first month sales. First reason, first salesperson, second month sales. First reason, second salesperson, first month sales. First reason, second salesperson, second month sales. Second reason, first salesperson, first month sales. Second reason, first salesperson, second month sales. And second reason, okay, second salesperson, first month sales. And this is second month sales. It's like that. It means logically you are organizing it. Logically you are organizing it by dividing into number of rows and columns. So that is what it defines as a dimension. Like you can have any number of dimensions. You can have any number of dimensions, right? Yes. Now I don't want the array should be created with some garbage values. I don't want array should be created with what? Garbage values. But I want the array should create with what? Zeros. I want to fill with what here? Zeros. This function return array with zero filled values. This function return array with what here? Zero filled values. Now what is the syntax here? Zeros. And it followed by which one? Shape. And data type is what here? Float. Default. If I don't give the data type, it will take the default data type as what? Float. Takes the default data type as a float. Now you are creating like this, but not with known values, not with unknown values. I want to create with known values, zeros. And you must define the shape here. You must define the shape. So what is the shape I am giving here? 3 rows. So this is one-dimensional array. This is one-dimensional array with the type of float. This is one-dimensional array with the type of float. I'm trying to write p equal to np dot. Again, I'm saying zeros. And I'm saying shape equal to. I try to define some 3 rows and 3 columns. And even I try to define the data type. Data type is np dot integer 8. Okay, so it will create an array with values zeros. It will create an array with values what? Zeros, right? So zeros, it will create an array with zero filled values. So there is one more function which is called as ones. Now this function return array with ones filled values. If you want, the array should be created with ones. If you want to create an array created with ones, then you are saying ones and shape equal to 3. And there is another array B, np dot ones, and you are saying shape equal to some 3 rows and 3 columns. And I try to define the data type. Okay, yes. But this will create an array filled with what here? Ones. So you are learning how to create the array. You are learning how to create an array. You create array using iterables. You create array using zeros. You create array using ones. You create array with your own value. I don't want 0. I don't want 1. I want to create array with my own value, filled with my own value. Then you can go for yes. Okay, no problem. So there is one more function is there. What is that another function? As array. This function return array object. This function returns array object. And this function is used to convert input object into what? Array object. Input object into what? Array object. As array means you can use this to create an array by using existing arrays. Existing arrays. Okay. Yes. Syntax is as array object data type and none. If the data type is not defined, it takes the data types based on input object element types. Suppose if input object type is integer, then it takes the data type as what? Integer. But if the data type, but what is the default data type here? None. But when it create an array, it will create an array with data type or not? Yes. But what is the data type of an array it takes? The data type of an array is the type of input array object. If the input array object type is integer, then the array is created with which type? Integer type. Integer type. It means if you want to create an array using an existing array, right? If you want to create an array using an existing array, okay, np dot array. Now I create an array with list here. So b equal to np dot as array. It followed by which one? A. As said, there is an array A. There is an array what? B. So this is an array A, and this array is what here? B. So if the object is having of type integer, then it takes the data type as what? Integer. Okay, based on the input array object. So there is another way of creating array. So that is called as which one? From buffer. So buffer is a temporary storage memory area. Buffers are used, generally buffers are used to increase efficiency in reading and what? Writing. From buffer function is used to construct array object using what here? Buffer. Buffer. From buffer, you define the buffer. So generally buffer is in-memory data, and the data always in the form of bytes. In buffer, how the data will be in bytes. So when this buffer is used is generally in when you're working with this data science applications, you'll be reading data from files. Okay, then what you do? You will not store directly inside what? Array. You don't store inside directly into what? Array, but you store inside what? Buffer. You store inside what? Buffer, and that buffer you convert into what? Array. So rather than reading directly from the file and loading into array, it may take a lot of time. Then you take one mediator. What is that mediator? Buffer. Buffering means where you store in the buffer, and from buffer you'll try to store into what? Array. So that will increase the efficiency in what? Loading the data into what? Array. So from buffer, buffer is a temporary storage memory area. So from buffer, it followed by buffer and data type and count offset. Count offset means how many bytes you want to read it. How many bytes you want to read. You store all the data in buffer. So buffer is nothing but a place, or it is an object where you store the data. It is an object only. Buffer is an object only where you store the data temporarily. Now where you define from buffer, you want to load from which place to which place. You can define the count and you can define the offset. Offset is nothing but position. Offset is nothing but what? Position. How many bytes you want to load? How many bytes you want to load? From which position you want to load? That is defined by what here? Offset. Okay, count is nothing but number of bytes. Offset is nothing but position. Count is nothing but number of bytes. For example, if this is a byte, narration is a byte. Okay, byte, because buffer is contain which type? Bytes type. Okay, from buffer, and this is a buffer. This is a buffer and data type. You are saying it is, you are creating an array of which type? String. You are creating an array of which type? String 1. 1 means what? 1 byte. Each character will take how many bytes? 1 byte. Okay, from buffer, data type and count is what? 3. So from buffer, you are reading how many characters? 3 characters. And from buffer, you are reading how many characters? 2 characters. But from where you are reading it? From 3 onwards. 0, 1, 2, 3. From 3 onwards, you are reading how many characters? How many characters you are reading? 2 characters. From which position? Third position. So here offset is nothing but position. Here offset is nothing but position. Buffer equal to, now this is byte string. Now I just write here. Okay, I just take it as Naresh 80. Print type of, so print type of which one? Buffer. So you want to know what is a buffer is, which type? Bytes. So this buffer is having how many bytes? You can print the length of this, length of which one? Buffer. So the buffer is having how many bytes here? 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You are creating array from what is that? Buffer, from buffer. Okay, buffer, buffer. That's it. I've just taken buffer. And if you say A, will it read all? A is what? From buffer data type. Now I can take NA. Each one is 1 byte or not? Yes. So B equal to NP dot. From buffer, I take buffer, comma data type. Okay, 1 byte. And I'm trying to define the count. I want to read how many characters? 3 characters from 3 bytes. From where? Buffer. Now it read O. So from buffer, it read how many bytes here? 3 bytes. NAR. So if I'm saying NP dot from buffer, so I just write here buffer data type. So I just write 1 byte. I said count is some 2 and offset is 3. So from third position, you are reading how many bytes? 2 bytes. From third position, you are reading 2 bytes ES. 0, 1, 2, 3. Third position, you are reading 2 bytes. So this is from buffer. And from iterator also you can create an array. From iterator also you can create what? Array. From iterator is there. From iterator also you can create an array. From iterator is there. Okay, from iterator also you can create array. Now for that, you have a from iterator. So this function return numpy array object. This function returns numpy array object using which object here? Iterator object. So from iterator, it followed by iterable. Okay, from iterator, it followed by iterable. S1 means string 1 byte. String 1 byte. Iterable that will provide Unicode character means it takes 2 bytes. Iterable that will provide data for one-dimensional array object. Count represents the number of elements should be read from iterable. The default -1, which indicates all elements. Suppose you create one iterable. You can create one iterable. So generally, any iterable you can create. Okay, suppose a equal to value for value in okay range of some 1 comma 11. Then I'll try to say print a. Actually, a is a okay. A is what here? Generator object. So this object it generates how many values? 10 values. This object will generate how many values? 10 values. Now I want to create an array. I'm saying array 1 equal to np dot from what is the name of the function from iterator. Okay, from iterator. What is the iterator here? A. So I just write array 1. Array 1 from iterator. Hmm. Okay. Okay. So now the data type is what here? Integer. Now the array is created with how many values here? 10 values. What is read this 10 values from where? Iterator. So I'm saying array 2 equal to np dot from iterator. So I'm saying a comma data type. Data type is np dot integer 8. And I'm trying to say count equal to 5. Means I want to read how many values here? 5 values. I want to read how many values here? 5 values. Oh. Oh, so already iteration is done, right? You have to create one more iterator. So using one iterator, how many times you can iterate? Only one time. Once iteration is done, you cannot read it. Oh, iterator is too short. Count is 5. Count. So if the count is not defined, it defaults to count is -1. So count is why is giving error? I don't know. Oh, sorry, it is B, right? Sorry. So count is 2 here. So it will read how many values here? 2 values. If I say count is a 5, then read how many values here? 5 values. Now this is creating an array from iterator. I mean any iterable you can use it. Then you can create by using a range also. You can also create an array by using a range. Okay, you can create an array using what here? Range. Okay, so this is how you should learn Numpy. So Numpy, So you have to, there is one function called what? Arrange. There's a function called arrange. Arrange is nothing but array range. So this function returns an array object with numeric range of values. The syntax of this is arrange, start, stop, step, and you also define what here? Data type. So you want to create an array. Now with the start value as 1, stop value as 11, and step value as what? 2. Now this will create array with odd numbers like 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. If you want to create an array with a range of values from 0 to 21, so is it 21 is included or not included? Not included. So it takes from 0 to 20. And what is the step I've taken? 2. 0, 0 plus 2 is a 2, 2 plus 2 is a 4, plus 2 is what? 6, like that. So it is created array with all the values from 0 to what here? 20. Okay, so this is called as which one? Arrange. You can also create an array here using line space, linear space or line space. So in a given line, you want the difference between this function works like a arrange function only, but this function takes size of the array. But arrange function takes the start, stop as well as what? Step. But the line space will take, line space takes only size of the array. Means how many values you want in the array. It constructs an array based on number of elements. The difference between each element is taken based on the number of elements. Now you don't define the start and stop. You don't define the start and stop. So it takes a you don't define the step. You don't define the step, but you define the start and stop and how many values. You define the start and stop, and between the start and stop, how many values you want to have it. Okay, now line space. I want to create an array using range from 1 to 5. 1 to 5. 1 is included, 5 is also included. So from 1 to 5, I want to have how many values? 5 values. Then what is the difference between each value? 1. So 1 plus 1 is a 2, 2 plus 1 is a 3. So that difference between the values taken automatically. For example, if I'm saying line space 1, 5, 10. So I want to create an array where how many values? 10 values. But I want to generate 10 values from starting value is what? 1. Ending value is what? 5. Starting value is 1 and ending value is what? 5. So from using 1 to 5, I should generate how many values? 10 values. Now what will be the difference between the value point? Some 2, 5 are like that. 1, see here, 1.0, 1.44, 1.8, 2.3, 2.7, 3.2, 3.6, 4.1, 4.5 and 5.0. But what is the difference between 1 and 1.44? 1.4. And 1.4 and 1.8 is what? 1.4. But the difference between these values are taken automatically. Now step is not defined. You just give only the start, stop and how many values. For example, from 1 to 10, I want 100 values. From 1 to, between the range 1 to 10, I want how many values? 100 values. So from 1 to 10, it generates how many values? 100 values. But what will be the difference between each value? That is automatic. Automatic means you can do it. For example, 1 to 5, you want how many values? 10 values. 1 to 5, you want how many values? 10 values. So 10 values means, okay, 1 to 5, right? 1 to 5. Now 1 to 5, you want how many values? 10 values. That is nothing but 5 divided by what? 10. So there will be a difference between each and every value or not? Yes. Okay. So that you can call it as which one? Line space. Line space where you define the start value, stop value, but you never define what? Difference. Start value and stop value, but you never defines what here difference. The difference is taken based on start value, stop value, but the difference is taken start value, stop value, but the difference is taken based on the number of values. The difference is taken based on the number of values. The difference is taken based on the number of values. Okay, right. So that you can call it as which one here? Lens space. And you also create by using what? Log space. This is log scale. The difference is taken based on the log. So the log space function create a numpy array object, evenly separated values using which scale? Log scale. So log space start, stop, and how many values? Okay, start, stop, how many values you want it? And what is the endpoint and what is the base? Now start specify the start value of the interval and stop specify the stop value or end value of the interval, and the number of values to be generated within range. Endpoint, the value of endpoint can be true or false. Whether you want to include whether you want to include stop value, whether you don't want to include stop value, that is defined by what here? Endpoint. The value of endpoint can be true or false. If endpoint is a true, which tells the log space include stop value. If false, it exclude which one? Stop value. Now bases represent the base of which one? Log space. But the difference is taken based on, now suppose 1 comma 50. I want to generate how many values? How many values? 50 values. So 1 to the power of 1 to the 1 point e to the power of what? 0, 1. Means 1 point means 1 into 10 to the power of 1, which is nothing but 10, 20, 30, 40, up to how many values? 50 values. Now log space 10 comma 20, and I've taken the base as what here? What is the base? What is the base I've taken here? Start, stop, and how many values I want? 5 values. Sorry, 5 is what here? Number of values. But what is the default base? 10. What is the default base? 10, right? So you can see 1 point, 10, and 3 point. Okay, 1 point, and then 3 point, 1 point. Now, but the difference between these values are taken based on the number of values between 10 to what? 20. But this is on which scale here? Log scale. This is on which scale here? Log. The difference is taken in log. The difference is taken in what? Log. So these are different approaches are there. These are different approaches in creating which one? Numpy array. These are different approaches which are used for creating what? Numpy array. Then once the array is created, what do you do it? You read the data and perform certain operations. Then how can you read the data from array? How to read elements from array? Okay, you can read the elements from array using indexing and what? Slicing. But Numpy provide some advanced slicing also. Numpy provides some advanced slicing which you don't do it by using only array. You don't do it by using array, right? So how to read elements from array using indexing and slicing? Using index, we can read how many values? 1 value. But using slicing, you can read how many values? More than 1 value. More than 1 value. Using this approaches, we can read elements of any dimension. That can be single dimension, any dimension. For example, if you take this is an array, I said in the beginning only a of 0, a of 1, a of 2. It means it will read first row, second row, third row. This is first row and this is second row. And this is what here? Third row. You are trying to display 3 rows, and you can read individual values by using row index, and what? Column index. By using row index and column index, print A of 1 0. So A of 1 1 and A of what is that? 1 2. So print A of 2 0, A of 2 1, and A of what is that? 2 2. So you're reading elements from first as well as what? Second. You can also use for loop for I in range of 3. This is index. I'm reading it using index. Using index, how many values can you read it? 1 value. Using index, how many values can you read it? 1 value. A of what is that? I and j. So using index, you can able to read only 1 value, but using slicing, you can able to read more than 1 value. Okay. If you want the same line, do like this. So this is reading elements using index. This is using index. But using index, okay, using index, you can read only 1 value. But using slicing, you can read more than 1 value. Using index, you can read only 1 value, right? But whereas in slicing, you try to define the start index as well as what? Stop index. The start index as well as what? Stop index. The slicing, what you're doing on, the same slicing, what you're doing on, the same slicing, right? The slicing which you are doing on, which type? The slicing which you are doing on, which type here? List. Whatever slicing you are doing on list, the same slicing you are doing on which one? Array. But array is having some advanced slicing because array can be single dimension. The array can be what? Single dimension. Yeah. Array can be single dimension or multi-dimension. Okay. It can be of any type, right? So matrix. Now slicing on matrix. So there is a matrix which contain row, lower bound and row, upper bound. And you define, see, this is for rows, and this is for what here? Columns. Now you can split into the rows or you can split into what? Columns. You can split either into rows, either you can split into what? Columns. And rows, and you can define a row index, a row lower bound index, and row upper bound index, column lower bound index, and column upper bound index. Okay. Now what you are trying to do, you are trying to create, yes, I try to create some 4x4 matrix, 4 rows and 4 columns with a 2-dimensional array. So np.array. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'm saying 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's a 9, 10, 11, and 12. And so there is a 13, 14, 59, 16. So this is an array with 4 rows and 4 columns. This is an array with how many rows? 4 rows and 4 columns are there. So then I'm doing slicing A of, what is it? Colon, comma, colon. I have not defined row upper bound, row lower bound. I have not defined column upper bound and column lower bound. So this will create a copy of the array or not? Yes. For example, I want to read, okay, how many rows? 2 rows. So I said, okay, I said colon 2, comma. I don't define what? Columns. I want to read all the columns, but how many rows? I want to read all the columns, but how many rows I want to read? 2 rows. I want to read all the columns, but how many rows here? 2 rows. Okay. Now I'll try to say D equal to A of, I want to read all the rows, but I want to read how many columns? 2 columns. I want to read all the rows, but I want to read only 2 columns. So all the rows, but with how many columns here? 2 columns. I want to read specific number of specified rows, 1 colon 3. Okay, 1 colon 3 means 1, 2. I want to read 1 row and 2 row. And second row and third row. And I need to read columns. Like I want to read 1 colon, again some 4. It means 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? So I try to print E. So it will take how many rows now? 2 rows. 2 rows are there, and how many columns it read? 3 columns. From which position? 1 onwards. 2 rows, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, right? So where you can define the row index as well as what? Column index. But there is some advanced indexing also supported here. So what is it? Advanced indexing is using Numpy advanced indexing, we can read selected values. Using advanced indexing, we can read what? Selected values from matrix. Using collection of tuples which represent row and column indexes, it allows to read even using condition. So advanced indexing is classified into 2 categories. Advanced indexing is classified into what? 2 categories. So the first one is integer based index, and second one is Boolean based index. So 2 indexes are there. One is integer based, and second one is what? Boolean based. Boolean means condition. For example, I want to read all the values which are greater than 5. I want to read all the values which are less than 5. I want to read all the values which are even numbers. I want to read all the values which are divisible with some x. Now that is based on some condition. Based on the condition that you call it as which index here? Boolean index. Greater than, less than, like that. And you can select the indexes. Okay, you can select the indexes. You can define that indexes within one tuple or within one list, and you can read it. So in the integer based index, in integer based, we try to create a collection which consists of tuples, where each tuple represent a row index and what? Column index. Each tuple consists of row index and column index. For example, now this will return one more array. The slicing will return one more array. I'm trying to say np.array with 1, 2, 3. Okay, with 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and some 7, 8, 9. So this is an array with 3 rows and 3 columns. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a tuple. I'm creating one tuple, and this tuple is having a list. This tuple is having a list which represent row indexes as well as what? Column indexes. This tuple is having a list which represent row indexes and column indexes. For example, you are saying 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, and comma something. So 1, 1, 2, 2, like that. So what will happen in this case? Now you are trying to read all the values. Now this is a row and this is what here? Column. You are reading the value at 0 row and 1 column. You are reading the value at 1 row and 1 column. You are reading the value at 1 row and what? 2 column. You are reading the value from 2 row and what? 2 column. Now you are reading selected values. Now here I am trying to say B equal to A of T. So T is nothing but what here? Tuple. T is a tuple. T is a tuple. Now you can see 2, 5, 6, 9. 0, 1. What is 0, 1? 2. And 1, 1. What is 1, 1? 5. Okay, then 1, 2. What is 1, 2? 6. And 2, 2. What is a 2, 2 here? 9. So this is advanced indexing. Now there is also which index here? Boolean based. There is also which one here? Boolean based indexing. Boolean based. So where you can read the data based on some condition. You can read the data based on what? Condition. np.array, which is having 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now 5, 6, 7, 8. Or 1, 2, 3. Something like this. 4, 5, 6. Okay, 7, 8, 9. And 10, 11, 12. So this is an array. Yeah, this is an array with 4 rows and 3 columns. I'm saying B equal to A of, I want to read all the values which are greater than 5. I want to read all the values which are greater than 5. Now this will return as which array? Single. Okay, right? So we are just learning how to create array direction. Okay, yeah, array. So there is an np.array. Now this is a single dimensional array, right? With some values, random values. Now for value in A, and you can print all the values. This is a multi-dimensional array where you can say for row in B. So B is which are a 2-dimensional array. Now it will read each time one list. It will read each time one list and assign to what? Row. And from row, each time you are reading one value. That value is called what here? Column. That value is called as a column and you are printing which one? Column. Now you can control the iteration order by saying what is that order can be either C or it can be what? F. So row major order and one more is what? Column major order. You can control the iteration order. Suppose if it is C, default is a C only. It is reading 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, but if it is a Fortran, which is called as column major order, then you can see 0, 3, 6. That is what here 0, 3, 6. Now that is which order here? Column major order, which is called as a Fortran language order. Now this is a matrix, right? This is a matrix with 3 rows and how many columns? 3 columns. So I try to convert this single dimension into what? 2 dimension with 3 rows and 3 columns. 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now this is how it is. And you are reading 0, first row, 0, 1, and then 2. Then next is 3, 4, and then what? 5. Then next you are reading some 6, 7, and one more is what? 8. But that is which order here? C major order. That is row major. Column major order is 0, 3, 6. Then 1, 4, 7. Then 2, 5, 8. Like this. So yes, you can also use an external loop where you can control, means you can create your own iterator. You can create your own iterator. You can create your own iterator and you can define the order in which you want to read it. Because for loop always it will read in which order? Row major order. But if you want to change the order of for loop reading, then you can create external iterator. And how you are creating external iterator, you are saying for value in np dot nd iterator a flags, this is external loop. Means this is not internally your for loop will create iterator. You are telling that, okay, don't use that iterator, use my iterator. Use my iterator by just giving the flag as what here? External loop. If you don't give this, then it uses which iterator? Internal iterator, which is created by whom? For loop. So you can control the order of reading it by creating which iterator? External iterator, by using what here? ND iterator. ND iterator a comma flags equal to external loop, order equal to what? F. So this will read in which order? Now you can see 0, 3, 6, 1, 4, 7, and 2, 5, 8. Yes. Now this is how you read elements from what? Array. You can read it using index. You can read it using what? Slicing. There is advanced indexing and what? Slicing. You can read it using for loop. You can read it by using what? Iterators. Then now manipulating arrays. Now once you create an array, sometimes you may change what? Shape of the array. You may change the shape of the array. Once you create an array, you may change the shape of the array. So how can you change the shape of the array? How can you change the shape of the array? What is the meaning of shape of the array? What is the meaning of shape of the array? The shape will define the number of rows and columns. The shape defines the number of rows and columns. The shape defines the number of rows and columns. Okay, right? So this is called as an array manipulation. Now where you can change the shape of the array, you can change the shape of the array, but when you change the shape of the array, it will try to return that as a new array. Okay. Now changing the shape is nothing but again, you may change what your dimension. Now here I created an array with one dimensional array with the values of how many 0 to 9. Okay, with the shape of how many values? 9 values. With the shape of how many values here? Oh, sorry. How many values are there? 9 values. So A equal to NP dot A range. So I just write here 9. Then I print the array. So the array is having how many values? 9 values. And print A dot. So, but this is single dimension or not? Yes. So print A dot n dimension. So this is single dimensional array. Then B equal to A dot reshape. A dot reshape with 3 rows and 3 columns. Now, whenever you are changing the shape, you have to see that the number of elements. How many elements are there? 9. Now 3 by 3 means how many elements? 9. So is it match or doesn't match? Match. If it is less, then it raises error, right? So this is a B. And I just write here print B dot shape. Print B dot shape and print B dot n dimension. Print B dot shape and B dot n dimension. Now this is 3 by 3 matrix with 3 rows and how many columns? 3 columns, but it is which dimension? 2 dimensions. 2 dimension. It is a 2-dimensional array, right? Then if you want to convert a 2-dimensional array into a flat array, flatten array, flatten means you want to convert multi-dimensional array into what? Single dimensional array, then you can just say np.flat. So 1-dimensional array iterator over the array. Means this will read. It will read elements in, it will return iterator, but that will read elements in like which array? 1-dimensional array. Assume that this is having how many values? Okay, this is having how many values? 6 values. There's nothing but there is how many rows are there? 2 rows. And how many columns are there? 3 columns. Now this is 1, 2, 3. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now if you are writing A dot flat, now it is treated this as which array? Single dimension and read the values. Now 3 means this index is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So actually this is what? 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2. 1, 0, 1, 1 and 1, 2. But when you say flat, it converts this into which array? Single dimensional array. A dot flat 3 means it will read the value at 3. What is the value at 3? 4. A dot flat 5 means it will read the value at 5. What is the value at 5 here? 6. But if you want to convert, then you can use flatten. If you want to convert, then you can use a function called which one? Flatten. Now this return 1-dimensional array. So 1-dimensional array. Now it will convert, but here it will not return. You can read in 1-dimensional array format, but it will convert and store into another array. For example, so if you want to convert, so I'm trying to say np dot a range. So 9 dot what is that? Shape. So reshape with 3 rows and 3 columns. This is an array with 3 rows and 3 columns, and B equal to NP dot flatten. So this is converting into which array? Single dimension array. Flatten the array. Oh, NP A dot. So A dot flatten. So this is which array? Single dimension array. So converted two-dimensional array into what? Single dimension. Now you can perform operations like which one? Yes. This function or method returns which operation? Transpose of a matrix. This method returns the reverse axis of what here? Matrix. X into y, y into x. X is the rows and y is what? Columns. So this function receive the input as an array and transpose and return modified array. And means the transpose is not done in the same array. Transpose is not done in the same array. Okay, transpose is not done in the same array, but the transpose is done in what? New array. The transpose is not done in the same array, but the transpose is done in what here? New array. So it will return one new array, not in the same array, but returns as what here? New array. Transposed array it will return. It will return what here? Transposed array. Okay, right? So this is how you are trying to transpose a matrix, and you can use a function called transpose. Okay, np dot transpose, and you can give the matrix, or you can use one attribute. And what is that attribute you can use? T, property. Actually, this T is a property. So that will transpose the matrix. That will transpose what here? Matrix. But I'm saying now most of the times, okay, you don't require to open here. So that is directly what is just now we created this one, right? If you want to open Google Colab, search for Google Colab. Okay. Google Colab. Here you find sign in. See, actually already I sign in, right? But here you find sign in. Just sign in and start working with it. Pranit Kumar. Okay, you'll get sign in. So just sign in, start working with it. Okay. Because already I sign in, right? If not sign in, you'll get sign in. Because already I sign in, it's not showing anything, right? Okay. Now these are other functions are there. Like there is a functions like transpose and swap access and role accessing, role access, expand dimensions like this. Some other functions are there. We'll see these functions and we'll see some functions belongs to linear algebra. Two functions I'll tell you. If I tell all the functions, then that is data science. Okay, right? But what you need to know is how to create NumPy arrays and other things, right? But tomorrow we'll see that. And tomorrow also you have a class. And tomorrow you have to join online. And this is your Zoom ID. You have to join online tomorrow. Okay. There's no offline class, only online is there. Okay. Tomorrow only online, but Monday as usual. Okay. Your regular timings, you'll have the class. Monday as usual, your regular times, you'll have the class. So Monday as usual, regular time, but tomorrow, same time, 8 to 11, you'll have the class. This is Zoom ID and this is a password. So Monday, as usual, you'll have the class, but tomorrow you have 8 to 11, right? So you have to attend online only. There's no offline. Tomorrow there's no offline, only online. Yeah, I'll tell you. When it starts, I'll tell you, right? Pushparaj. Monday, as usual. Monday timings is as usual. What I'm saying, Monday as usual. As usual बोले तो क्या है यार? वो भी नहीं मालूम रहे तो कैसे यार? Your respective timings, you have to come. Right, we'll see tomorrow at 8 o'clock.